operator in training. Well, I think a lot of us are banking on the rapture. We've been hearing about that a long time. The generation before us was preaching and hearing about it, and things keep going on, right? Life keeps going on. Anyway, we are going to do these 4 words. We're going to do verses 1 through 42. And in verse 6 it says, the generation to come. The generation to come. Now listen, I was not in church, in a Baptist church, until I was in my 30s. I went back to school when I was 40. Didn't get out of school until I was 44. We started the church when I was just turned 44, 43. We built the church when I was 50, 48. Started, we bought the house, then built the church, and now I asked Brother Wiltsey how he feels and how old he is. And so I won't disclose his age, but I said, do you feel like you're going to make it to 98? He said, yeah, right now I feel that way. He feels that way. And I don't feel, I personally don't feel that way about me. But the generation to come, there is a generation before you and I. And we say it was the greatest generation of all. It's the World War II generation. You know, there's always been tough people. Tough people. And the church goes on, even amongst the COVID, and those that tried to destroy the truth. Folks, over the years, people have tried to destroy us right from the get-go. Inside the church and outside the church, people have tried to destroy it. But it goes on. There's the generation before. There's the generation that you and I, that is now, right now. And there is the generation that is to come. And that's what it says, the generation to come. So there is the generation that is to come. That generation that is right now, that has that, I don't know, I don't have that gizmo. And but we're to march on, and we're not to go to some mountaintop and wait for the rapture. We're going to go and continue on. We've been posting the billboard, the things up on the billboard right now for some time. So we need to get a new slogan. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. Come up with some new billboard slogans to get up there. If anybody has anything, please don't hold back. Let me know. Even if it's a bad idea, it can lead to a good idea, and so on. So it'd be good to have that. And we're marching on. It's our 25th anniversary next week. And we didn't send out letters. We're not making a big hoopla. We'll probably have dinner. We will have a dinner. We'll probably have a cake. And so we'll make some arrangements for that kind of stuff. So over the years, we started in the house and we moved into what we called the hut. Then we bought the house. I was talking to my daughter. She was over the house, and she's interested in the property. There's an interest of some of our children to move near us, and so there's an opportunity. And she made, and I don't know if there's any good news. It sounds like there might be bad news. I don't know, which might be good news. It's whatever the Lord wills. can't move in there, you can't move in there, or whatever the Lord wills. And, but I had called when the house came up for sale next door here. And I said, I asked the owner for a year or two, if you're ready to sell, I'm ready to buy. So let me know. Well, it came up for sale for $39,000. The property, which is this half of the church, and the house with a bathroom size. And between the men's room and what we call the hut, that's about the driveway size. There was a driveway between each building. That was the width. And I called because we didn't have all 39,000, and I couldn't get a loan. They wouldn't give me we couldn't get a loan on the property. But we had a lot of cash, but we didn't have that much cash. And but I called the pastor of our old church. I said, well, what should I do? And he said, should I just forget it and move on? He said, you buy the property. If you don't, you're boxed in. If we didn't buy that, the church would be from here to here. That'd be it. So when the opportunity knocks, what do? My dad used to say, he who hesitates is lost. When an opportunity knocks, go for it. So we had the means to do it. But this is something that I never did. And what he had said to me, he said, well, it was a Wednesday night. It was Wednesday afternoon when I called. And I said, well, we got prayer service tonight. He said, well, challenge the people. We only had a handful of people. And he said, this evening when you go to church, challenge the people and ask them for the money. I said, well, I've never done that. Well, just ask them, challenge them, and see what happens. And I think we had $39,000. I forget the situation. We had a lot of money. I think we had enough to buy it. I think. But I wanted to hold the money alone. Well, I challenged the people. Before we left the building that night, we had $10,000 with a little handful of people. Somebody came up and gave it to me. And we paid it back. They loaned us. We paid them back. I was able to secure the building. And then we bought it out. We bought it out. Right? And then we paid back the ones that loaned us the money back. And I think it was a year. The terms were a year. And it was interest free. But if we don't have the vision of going on, continuing on, things will just get stagnant. And Diane, there is a generation that went before us, and they passed the baton on to you and I. And now we take the baton and we pass it on to the generation. That's what it says. That the generation to come, you might know that. The generation to come. Now there are children here that are the generation to come. They are coming along. And we are to pass the baton on to them and for them to go on. Because Brother Wiltsey and me are not going to last forever. Right? And we pass it on to the next generation. Now, I know people have been all upset about these pianos, and Tucker can't stop collecting pianos. I own 7 pianos. And I told my daughter this afternoon I have a vision of a home, and I want to put in that home what's called a star piano, S-T-A-R-R. My tutor came to my one daughter's house to tune up the piano that she has. In fact, it's your piano. Yeah. At my daughter's house, he tuned it. Got it all up to snuff. He said, well, this thing needs work, but he said, right, it's holding. It's holding. And so he's got that up to snuff. And I want this star piano. I know what I got. I asked him, I said, have you ever seen a star piano?
And he said, yeah, I tuned a lot of them. He said, but they're getting so old, that it's a man, like a Baldwin or a Steinway, Yamaha. Came another piano. Can't think of one right now. This one's a Gert, and he asked me what I have at my house and what this one is. And this, oh, he knows this one, Young Chang, this is a Korean piano. Well, he's familiar with Star. He said, well, but they're so old, a lot of them are giving up the ghost. And I said, well, I like it because it's a they made some very ornate boxes. And it's got several legs. And he said, well, some of them had that because it's a grand piano. They're long enough with a steering, you need a steering wheel and a clutch, man. These pianos are so big. It's like driving a semi. And he said it's because some of them had player pianos inside. They were heavy. They were heavy pianos. Well, the idea is, I've got this vision. I have a vision for children's home. I still have that. Okay. Will it happen? Maybe. Will it not happen? Maybe. But if I don't keep that and then plan for that, it'll never happen. I could just say, phooey on it. We're done. I quit. Anybody can quit. You and I are to go on. We've been given the baton. That was the generation before, and we are now the generation that is now, and we are to pass it on to the generation that is to come. So we got children back there that don't know anything about electronics. I don't know anything about that board back there. And they're working the dials right now. And so somebody older has taught them a couple of things back there. We got a kid here who's got a voice, and he's leading singing right now. We've got, the piano collector here has other children on the piano. One day they're going to take over. And I'm not going to play anymore. It's over. And I've got my books that I've done. You can do with it what you want. You can throw the books out. You can destroy the books. You can white it out. I believe there are people that would be so upset they would white out all my chords. And I don't think that's far-fetched. But I made them for you kids, and I trained you that way. Verses 1 through 3. We have 10 points. We can preach this quickly. I think you're going to get the drift of this right away. But there is a generation to come. And basically, it is the same thing that we can preach day in and day out. But listen, I can only preach what the Word says. It says that's the same sermon. Well, if that's the same sermon, it's because it says the same things. I can only preach what it says. Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old, which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. This would be from the past, the generation before. And that is this, that we are to utter these words, and that what the words of God and people are to, our first point is here. They are to hear these now. Are people going to hear this? Those that want to. Those that have a heart for it. Those that have a will for it. Those that have a void in their heart that needs to be filled. Those whose ears are open. They're going to hear. It is up to you and I to declare these things. There are people who are willing to hear. Willing to hear. Father, bless our message. By the way, song leader, and so we could do this while we're here. Always do a prayer, okay, or assign somebody a prayer. Next time you do it. Pick somebody to pray and say, Brother Ben, you pray. Brother Paul, pray. Something like that. And we probably don't do enough of that, where the leader is doing that, where it should have been given to others to help in that. In other words, they're also being able to do that publicly. You're passing the baton on. You're passing the baton on to other people. Here. We will, verse 4, we will not hide them from their children. showing to the generation to come. So we're not to hide these things. We are to display these things. We don't get any emails on the billboard anymore, do we? Anybody see any emails? Yes, no? You're not looking for them? Whether it's at the landscaping outfit, your outfit, nobody. So the people that were emailing us, they still see them. They're just, you know what they're doing? They're tired of email. They look forward to it. People do look forward to the billboard. And they look forward to new ones up there. And over the years, people have emailed and said things. But see, folks, we're not to hide this. The Spanish tracts are coming to an end. They're all done, ready to print. They're going to go to print here this week, hopefully. And then I'm going to make a WTAM appointment. We're going to go down there to Rockside Road and those, you know where that is, where 77 is. That is 77. Willow Freeway. Anybody remember Willow Freeway? It was called Willow Freeway, Route 21, before it became 77. It's still called Willow. On the map, it's called Willow Freeway. So that goes way back, Willow Freeway. And we're not going to hide it, folks. We have 4 or 5 new tracks in English, so we get a whole month, not just 3 weeks, but a full 20 days, Monday through Friday, 4 weeks of that in English, and then a full 4 weeks, the same track in Espanol. And people might say, hey, you should be doing that. Listen, folks, we're not running a business where it's customer-based. And my mother used to say to me, well, Gary, you got to get customers. She would say, you've got to get paying customers, and that always rubbed me the wrong way. But Gary, paying customers. And, but she would say that. And, folks, that's not our goal. Our goal is to get the Word of God out there. We're not to hide it. Not to hide it. It says showing to the generation to come. Showing this. We are to herald this. We are to herald this to come. The praises of the Lord in His strength and His wonderful works that He had done. We are to herald these things. To tell other people that are out there. Listen, I encourage people to take signs out. Did you take the signs home for them, or they're still there? Pardon? And you didn't. All right. My preference is always to do the stuff here. If you do take them, I'm not going to scold you. If you take them, I won't know the difference. If you did it, you know. But I encourage you to take signs, put them out, tracts out, get it on the billboard. We need to do that. Herald this. Herald this. Showing this. For verse 5, for He established a testimony in Jacob. And this is something that you and I we are supposed to, the only H word I can come up with, verse 5, is have. This is something that you are to have. And that is a testimony. And if you were to say, if I was to walk down the street and I say, do you know so-and-so? They go to our church and they say, oh, that person. And, it depends on who you're talking to. If it's a bad report, that might be a good thing. Depends on who you're talking to. Or is it, or do you get a good report? Folks, we already have a testimony. A testimony out there that we love the Lord, that we know Jesus Christ, that when people see us, they think of Jesus. They think of Jesus. Something that we have. To establish a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which He commanded our fathers that they should make them known to their children. We are to have this testimony, this way of living, this way of life that you and I are to possess. We are to have that. Even as little children, you know, I think about this, homeschooling thing. You know, folks, we've homeschooled forever. They went to public school for 1 year. Starla went for a year or 2 years. And we got control of her, we got her out. Now these kids with this COVID business, they're not ready for that. The home situation isn't able to handle it. There is talk, I thought I heard, there was talk on the radio, those that were doing it, that were ready, willing, and they're going for it, homeschooling. They wanted to know, well, can I get my government money? Since the government money is no longer going to the public school and you don't have my kids, I want my money. We laughed and I said, I wonder how far that's going to go, because we wanted that 35 years ago. We wanted that, and we weren't going to get that money. Now I thought I heard talk that they're going to issue this money. This is all in last week, unless I heard wrong, that some of these kids are going to be issued it. They're going to get that money. I'm thinking, well, when it was our turn, we never got it. Now is that a fact, or am I dreaming? I don't know. But I went to our school board, and I met with the superintendent, and I asked this, I said, do you spank the children here? And there was another administrator there, a woman, just a man and a woman, the superintendent was a man. By the way, our neighbor said this, if you're a lousy teacher, you become the principal. If you're a lousy principal, you become the superintendent. It's an inside joke for teachers. And there's probably a certain amount of truth to it. So I said this, asked the superintendent, he's back to the children. And he looked puzzled. This, what kind of a cat looks like him? What kind of an animal? What was that expression? Looked really puzzled. Question is, looked at the woman, she looked at him, have we ever used corporal punishment? And she said, I don't believe it. When was the last time you ever even heard anything like that? And my answer to them was, that's all I need to know. My children are not coming here. Because we know what it's like to have a national motorcycle gang in a school that runs wild like animals. And when kids are not disciplined, they run the halls in grade school like animals. I know with Dana, we discussed it. We were trying to estimate, we felt that 10% of the children we went to school with belonged in a reform home or some kind of institution. It was that bad. That's where they need to be. I'm not putting my kids in that kind of situation. And if you want child abuse, send them there or send them to a daycare. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that have no choices. There's no choice. No choice. This is a testimony that we are to have, that we are different. We were actually turned in for homeschooling by the concerned citizen. And so we got the the midnight knock, what they do before they send you out to site therapy. It wasn't the midnight knock. Was it the 1 o'clock in the afternoon knock? 10 o'clock knock? It was the 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock knock. It was probably the school psychologist, a school nurse. There wasn't a cop. I think it was the two of them. But somebody turned this in. I said, well, who is it? They were going to reveal that. If you found out who it was, you'd be shocked. It's kind of like an obscene phone call. We had an obscene phone call. I'm not putting up with it. We had an obscene phone call. People change their phone number like they change their socks. I will not change my phone number. I have my phone number. I've had it right from the get-go. I'll have it till the day, at least my plan is having it till the day I die. So we were going to hook that up with the police. We finally called the police. We wanted it to stop. They were calling my wife. And it wasn't stopping, so we called the police. They said, listen, we will hook you up. I've told this story in here several times. We'll hook it up. We will find him, whoever this is. We'll find this person. But you're going to have to sign some kind of paper that says that if you do not prosecute this person, that we as the police, as the part of their duty, civil duty is for them to enforce the law, whether or not you enforce it or not. We had to sign off saying that they will prosecute. And they said, just make sure before you sign this that we're going to prosecute these people when we catch them. Because they said almost invariably, almost all times, it's somebody that you know and somebody very close to you. So the detective, whether he was a detective or what part of the police department he was, he said, listen, these people are not, because we joke and say the best and the brightest jokingly, but they know the ins and outs. He said the best thing to do is just tell everybody you're going to hook this up to the police department, and we're going to wiretap this phone. Any call coming in, they're going to know exactly who it is when it happens, and they're going to have it. We put that out. All obscene phone calls stopped overnight. We never got another one from 35 years ago. Never got another call. Or 40 years ago. Never got a call like that. So who turned us in on the homeschool thing? Probably somebody very close. But folks, we want a testimony. A good testimony. And we don't want to have our children polluted by this evil as much as we can keep away from them until they're an adult. Something that we have, verses 6 and 7. Now, I know that there are preachers that preach just the opposite. Oh, no, they need to go to public school and be a testimony there. Folks, you know how tough it is for kids to do that. That's a tough one. That's a tough one at all. Verses 6 and 7. That the generation to come might know them. Even the children which should be born, should arise and declare them to their children, that they might set their hope. So our next H word, our fifth one, is hope. That people will have hope in God. And not forget the works of God, but keep His commandments. That they might set their hope in God. Folks, people have their hope in all kinds of things other than God. Man, when we went to that high school, the ambulances would come in home. Wow. Do you think that's something new? The paddy wagon showed at West Tech in the 1920s to haul them out when they're fist fighting with the principal back in 1923. This is nothing new. Elliot Ness came in here to stop kneecapping with the machine guns. These people are just evil people. And around that time during Prohibition, they heated up that chair and they burned 3,000 of these thugs to get rid of them. Because these people have no hope. They have no hope because they're surrounded by this. We need to give them Jesus so that they will have hope. I mean, we had a girl leap out the window. There was only 2 floors at Bedford, but she went out 2 floors. Because people have no hope. Have no hope. Verse 7, that they might set their hope in God and not forget the works of God, but keep His commandments. That they would keep His commandments. Not only that they would have hope, but they would hearken to it and perform that. I had asked a couple of people, long after I had gotten saved, that I met after high school, that I knew was in high school, met a couple of people that they had gone to a independent Baptist church. I said to a couple of people, I said, well, why didn't you tell me about this when I was in school? Why didn't you say something back then? Well, they were afraid to. They didn't mention you just didn't dare bring that up. So I had nothing to hearken to if you weren't hearing it. That we would keep his commandments, that we would hearken to it. Verse 8, it might not be as their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation that's set not there. Our seventh one is their heart, aright, whose spirit was not steadfast with God. Folks, it is a heart condition. This is a heart condition. This is an issue that is in the heart. When people set their heart on what they want to do. They have their heart set on, that's what they pursue. Folks, we're to pursue Jesus. We're to pursue God and his things. That's what we are to set our heart. It will pay off. It will pay off. Verses 9 and 10. The children, we have to, listen, we know these verses. Knew these verses 35 years ago when I first got saved in the Baptist church, and we knew these verses really well. But setting it in the context here, the children of Ephraim being armed and carrying bows turned back in the day of battle. They kept not the covenant of God, refused to walk in his law, forgot his works and his wonders that he had showed them. The only H word I could come up with this is there are people that hate God. They hate church. They hate following his ways. The sooner they can get out from under that, the better for them. They just can't stand it. I wouldn't call them wheat. They can sit in church from now to doomsday. They are tares. And they'll do their best to destroy the wheat that's there. They hate it. They are a discouragement. A discouragement. What are the two tribes the other two tribes is Ephraim and Manasseh. I think those are the two tribes on the other side. They hate the Lord. They have the ability. They're armed. They're carrying bows. They turn back in the day of battle. When it comes time to fight, when it comes time to do it, when it comes time to perform, they're not to be found. Not to be found. Hate. Verses 12 through 16. Marvelous things did he in the sight of their fathers in the land of Egypt, in the field of Zoan. Now by faith we just have to believe these things that are printed. He divided the sea, caused them to pass through it. He made the waters to stand as a heap. In the daytime also he led them with a cloud, and all the night with a light fire. He clave the rocks in the wilderness and gave them drink as out of the great depths. He brought streams also out of the rock and caused waters to run down like rivers. We must believe there is the help. He helped them get through this. God Almighty helped them get through this. Folks, whatever has transpired, we look back at our 25 years, and I say to the wife, if I had to do this over again, I don't know how I ever did it. And I had help from my kids. We had a lot of help from the kids. I think building those last two cabinets back there almost killed me. Almost killed me. I eked out of one species of tree both cabinets to there wasn't enough scraps left to light a cigarette. You know, I just eked out. If I had to do it all over again, I don't even know if I could do it. And we look back and say, only by God's mercy and grace did all of it ever happen. But if you don't venture out, the first step by faith, right, isn't it never going to happen. God gave them plenty of help to believe. plenty of help along the way, right? Apollos planted, Paul planted, Apollos watered, but God giveth the increase, amen. God giveth the increase, the help. Verse 42, and we'll be done. They remembered not his hand. Our last H word is the hand, his hand. Nor the day when he delivered them from the enemy. Folks, we never need and should never forget the hand of God that worked all the way through our lives, all the way to the end. I might be closer to the end than you are. I asked him how he felt. Well, I feel, he openly stated he feels he can go another 10 years. I don't know if I can go another 10 hours at times. The hand of God in this. And when God decides it's over, well, then it's over. Right? But until then, let's just keep marching on. Because there was a generation before us. This is the generation now that's you and I. I fought a good fight. I finished my course. I kept the faith. And there's a new generation that's going to take over after we're gone. We have to have faith in that. Whether it be somebody from here, somebody from somewhere else. Someone, and whether they turn this into a chiropractic center, what difference does it make? The Word of God, the will of God, the works of God are still going to go on. Shake hands before leaving.